Okay.
Good morning. It is April 2nd, and we're just starting Spilt Milk by Courtney Zoffness. So let's take a look and let's see what she looks like, and I'll read you a little bit about her. So I gotta bring that up. Let's see. There she is. She looks like a she looks like a young woman, attractive young woman. There she is. This is her first book. And I know some, and we'll talk about all of this, that when you're this young to write like a memoir, what do you do in the rest of your life? And I'll tell you what she says about herself on her website. Um, Courtney Zoff, here she is. So this is her literary debut. Internationally award-winning writer Courtney Zoffness considers what we inherit from generations past, biologically, culturally, spiritually, and what we pass on to our children. Zoffness relives her childhood anxiety disorder. Okay, I think we've got that clear. But she's got issues. She has anxiety as it manifests in her firstborn, endures brazen sexual advances by a student in her class, grapples with the implications of her young son's cop obsession, and challenges her Jewish faith. What role does a mother play, she asks, in raising thoughtful, generous children? Where's the line between privacy and secrecy? How do the stories we tell inform that? Now, let me just get her bio up for this time. We know she's the author of this. She was the second ever woman to win the Sunday Times Short Story Award, the most valuable international prize for short fiction among entries from 38 countries. She holds a graduate degree from the writing seminars at Johns Hopkins University, University of Arizona. All right, not as and a BA from the University of Pennsylvania. Okay, that's good. She taught at a dozen different institutions and delivered readings and talks at venues across the U.S. and abroad. Currently, she directs the creative writing program at Drew University, where she's an associate professor of English. She lives with her family in Brooklyn. So she's a hipster. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of that comes through. Lynn, wait, let me unmute you. Go ahead.
I was just toying with my iPad here.
Oh, I thought, listen.
but I have to say, we got home late last night, so I'm a little famished right now.
Okay.
I'm shocked at how young she is, because I agree with her on so many levels, and with her parents. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, this is going to be an interesting discussion for me, but
yeah,
I think the role of parenting is such a fine line. I describe it as a fine line, because you never know if what you're doing is right, and it doesn't matter how many kids you have. But I think the anxiety surrounds all of us in terms of how to be a mother that produces healthy-minded, active, engaged kids. So
yeah,
I really identified with all her fears. Not
a lot of fears. A lot of fears.
Yes, true.
Sue.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like she certainly we all know about the anxiety she was suffering, and that she passed on to her child, and she got it from her parents. I think they raised her with fear of everything, and she's definitely suffering from an anxiety neurosis.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
we can only hope she's on Zoloft or something.
Yeah.
Let's call her doctor. Let's.
And I mean, it struck home with me on so many levels.
Yeah.
Because I was also a very fearful child.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I actually got it from my parents because they kept, I think, I think that I was fearful because they weren't.
Well,
Oh,
I,
that's
I
interesting.
I see anxiety in my daughter, and when I see it, I realize that I'm anxious. But I didn't, when I was growing up until really recently, I didn't identify it. So, and I also think, that's my age and generation. And, Courtney's age and generation, they know they've identified it. There's a lot of therapy speak. I'm sure she's seen a therapist. And so that was kind of a revelation. And the whole thing, yeah.
I have to say, Vanessa, I was so fearful that I couldn't even go to school on Halloween
Oh, yeah.
because I was so afraid of the masks. And when
Yeah.
my
Mhm.
mother
Very
would take
common.
me down, we would be walking down, well, we lived in Rogers Park. We'd walk down Devon Avenue and by the Kresge's dime store, and all these masks were in the window, and I would bury my head in my mother's shirts.
Yeah, listen.
But I didn't
it's
have to
not-
look at them.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's why
Patty
I
Harmony.
identified
What
so
is good?
much.
Yeah. Merle, what do we got here? She's holding up Hattie Harmony.
I want to just show you this. If you have any anxious grandchildren, there's a series by Elizabeth Olsen, the actress, and her husband, Robbie Arnett. And it's the Hattie Harmony series. And the first book in the series is called Hattie Harmony Worry Detective. And it's done with little animals. It's very cute illustrations. And then the second book in the series is called I'll show you that one too. Hattie Harmony opening night. And this is for children who might be in the school play and worry about making a mistake. But apparently it's so common. This series started in 2022. It's so common that they're starting to publish books for children.
Oh,
These
that's
children, age 4 to 8 is this series. 4
Yeah.
years old. Mhm. Okay, that's all I wanted.
I'm gonna go, as we're talking, I'll look online and put I'll put the link in the chat. I have a granddaughter who was born 2020 in the midst of COVID. And she just turned 5 because that was 5 years ago. And, her first 2 years, that's not true. She was in daycare eventually. And so she did see kids. But some parents who were so frightened of COVID, their kids didn't see anyone else for 2 years. That just can't be good. And we're getting off topic, but as I look back, the kids never got COVID, and we probably should have had them in school with masks or something because we're still catching up, still catching up. And it's, I think there's got to be some anxiety rooted in the COVID years. Lynn.
I think COVID just exacerbated it, but because now we've got labels for parents who are doing this, like the hovering helicopter parents of my high school students. You would not believe the calls that I got.
Oh, I can only imagine.
From parents. I mean, you are ruining my child's life. And this is it's the overprotective, wanting the child to have a sort of like a perfectionist attitude that you want your child protected from any kind of danger or obstacle or kidnappers. I remember my grandmother, when we stayed overnight, she said, "Why are you so scared?" And we said, "Kidnappers." She said, "They're going to return you in the morning."
That's
cute. That's very cute. I mean, she was such a chill person. So I don't know if it's parenting, if it's the society we live in, if it's all the people that surround us.
Yeah. All right, Mary, then Ellen.
So helicopter parents were my generation.
I was just going to say.
It's beyond, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
younger than you,
It's
but
beyond that.
my daughter went to Barnard. She's 42. during her freshman year, the president of Barnard, or the dean, wrote a op-ed in the New York Times about the helicopter parents. They would sit in her office and say, my kid needs an internship. And say, she'd go, well, have her come in and look. No, I want you to do it for her. I mean, it's been there from the beginning. Time they complained about grades. They didn't get the grades. Only the kid got the grades because they're 18. She had to, it was a constant, she said, helicoptering. They never let their kids go to college. They were dropping in every weekend. They were, and it's only, I think, gotten worse over time. But my generation did this. We were scared to let our kid ride their bike around the corner, even if they were with a group of kids. Where you couldn't, there wasn't a parent that could actually see them.
Right.
And, we started being afraid.
Yeah. Unlike when we grew up, my mom said, be back for dinner.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Mine too. Mine didn't
And now it would be considered neglect.
Exactly. Ellen. And then I think Barb had her hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say basically the same thing. Helicopter parenting has been around for a long time. And if you go back to the story, at least when a kid's in trouble, the parent should act, as opposed to some of the helicoptering where they're doing, they're way over the top. But my question is, I read this very quickly because I'm in the middle of trying to finish a book for next week for my book club.
What book?
Brotherless Night, and it's wonderful. But is the whole book like this? You've gone through this?
I've gone through it. Yeah. I mean,
It's the whole book about stress and
yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, because I must say I didn't love. Okay, well at least I know that. But okay,
Right.
thank you. Go ahead.
Barb.
One of the things, it's a little different than what we've been talking about, that struck me when I was reading this, is that she is the eldest child with all this anxiety in her family, and her son with all this anxiety is her eldest son. And I am the eldest of my sister and I'm the eldest. And I think about how I raised my eldest child. And I think that place in your family sometimes has a lot to do
Oh,
with how
absolutely.
you turn out. And I think that the first child is an experiment. I really do. I've always felt this way, that, you beat yourself up to do your very, very best. And God knows I have a lot of anxiety about how I raised my kids, what I did right, what I did wrong, why I should have done, didn't do, all of that. But I think that being a first child is in many ways an experiment for the parents.
Yeah.
Very good. Judy.
I had a cousin who was married to a pediatrician. She had 5 children. And she used to say, it's like pancakes. You have to throw the first one out.
That's funny.
That's very funny. Merle, then Susan. So,
Okay,
Merle.
there's a very popular TV show on right now called White Lotus, probably a lot of people
Yes,
are
yeah.
watching HBO Max. And the mom is a very wealthy family, and the mom, who pretty much has everything she needs, is so nervous all the time, and she's passing around lorazepam like, candy. It's an anti-anxiety drug, really specifically for panic attacks. And she takes it, and her husband steals it from her, and he takes it. And so you get this sense that, oh, it's okay. Everybody should be taking anti-anxiety medication because these people they have everything in the world and they're still anxious. So I think it's something in modern society too.
Yes.
Just that
Yeah.
so much TV, so many screens, everybody's competing. I think there's something going on right now where there's more anxiety, because I grew
Oh,
up in the 50s. In the 50s, where things were much calmer. And I remember as a child once, I'd moved to an apartment and I got lost coming home from school because I wasn't exactly sure. And so I went up to a lady who was pushing a baby carriage, and I had memorized my new address. And she said, no problem, I'll walk with you. I'll take you home. And she did. It was fine. I told this story to my granddaughter, who's 8. She said, you walked up to a stranger, a total stranger? Yeah, I mean, she was a mom pushing a baby carriage. I think she was okay. I mean, she was okay. But I mean,
Yeah.
the children are taught now, you absolutely don't go up to strangers.
No,
It doesn't
no.
matter, man, woman, mom, whoever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And listen, you go pick, like, I'm on a list for my grandkids. If I'm not on that list, I could show, everything. All right, so I have Susan, Abby, then Elaine. Susan,
Um,
Sue.
so I'm going back to the book, and if you go to page, I think it's page 16, where it says childhood rules,
Yeah.
and there's this whole list of all the rules that she was living by
Yeah,
and bringing her children up with. And it's amazing.
on page 21.
Oh, is it
In
21?
my book, it's on page 21.
Okay, well,
20
I guess I'm
23
reading
for
on,
us.
Yeah.
reading on my
Different,
iPad.
right. We have different editions as well.
Right. So, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
All this whole list.
Yeah.
And I just don't let the fuel tank dip below half. I mean, tuck the
Right.
bottoms of your pants into your socks when in nature. I mean, she goes on, don't shower or talk on the phone during a thunderstorm. All these rules.
Yeah.
I love this one, eat Halloween candy
Yeah,
only
that's
after you've
really
broken
sad.
apart each piece.
Right.
I will check.
Okay, that list is something.
Yes.
Abby, then I have Elaine, Lynn, and Beverly. Abby, go ahead. I'm gonna unmute you. You're good.
Maybe I'm a little bit of an outlier, but I just think what a luxury it is to be able to say you're dealing with anxiety. I mean, I think so many of us have had anxiety and couldn't really label it, but to be able to talk about it, to be able to say that this is something going on, and so on and so forth. And I think there's always been anxiety and we haven't talked about it. I'm more aware of it now and realize how much anxiety I have had as an only child, late in life child, growing up and so forth. And I really think with my first child, I really made such a conscious effort not to treat him as a first child or whatever. I don't know if I succeeded in that, but I worked. But I have to follow up with an anecdote of what Merle had just said. When I was about 6 years old, I don't know if you're familiar with bluebirds. They're like the younger version of campfire girls.
Yes.
And I was a bluebird, and I was lost at the zoo. And I always had a dime in my pocket. So I went up to a man and told him that I was lost. Could he lift me up so that I could use the payphone?
Wow.
Well, so I called my mom, and she had a neighbor or somebody in the building that she managed drive and pick me up, and so on and so forth. The group never knew that I was lost. They never called, and so on and so forth. So I never went back
Can
to
you
being a
imagine
bluebird.
today? It'd be sued today. Would never, that would.
But I just,
We do head counts constantly.
I didn't have that kind of fear in taking public transportation, going down to visit my mother at Michael Mees Hospital. I mean, I
Right.
was used to that and so forth. And I remember being reprimanded by other mothers when I let our son take the train downtown, which the Northwestern, which I thought nothing of because I always took public transportation, but
Yeah.
the feedback that I
Yeah.
got from other mothers, how could you
Right.
let them do that? So
Yeah.
I think, it depends on where you are and in society or in life and in your situation, but in terms of, being able to identify that you have anxiety or have people to talk to about it or realize, that they put a label on it and be able to deal with it is,
Yeah.
there is a lot going on, but it's
Yes,
helpful to be able to say something about it.
indeed. Thank you. Beverly, go ahead. Then Lynn.
Hi. Well, two things. First of all, there's different kinds of anxiety. There's a situational anxiety. I mean, when I was moving, I was insane, but it passed. It doesn't mean I'm a person that's anxious all the time. So there is a big difference. But I also wanted to talk a little about the list. For instance, on the second one about not eating Halloween candy,
That's today.
That was something that happened because they found
Right.
danger in
Yeah,
Halloween
yeah.
candy.
Razor blades.
Before
Yeah,
that
right.
happened, no
I
one
remember it
would have even
vividly.
thought of looking for a razor
know.
blade in candy. So some of these
Brought
things,
it home in my generation. Yeah.
the rules happen because things are real. And I went over this list because I want to know what do I do on this list?
That's
Well,
anxiety producing.
All of it.
I don't let my gas tank get below half, you know, and when I go on vacation, I do pack pharmaceuticals, you know, my little kit. I can't say that I do a lot of the other things, and that packing up of you know, in case of emergency, all the things in the glove compartment and people building these safe rooms stocked with in the impending end of the world. And I think a lot of that is new in our life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's news, it's things that are happening in the world that are unfortunately creating a lot of the anxiety that we didn't have before.
Here. Elaine and then Lynn. Elaine.
Okay, I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
I found the book to be, I found her to be whiny.
Oh.
And
Whiny.
whiny. And I think we have become a nation of victims. And you know, my granddaughter Sarah, who teaches middle school, claims that the kids are getting worse and worse and nastier and nastier, and the parents are getting, you know, more protective and more protective. I think that we have become isolated. And that is one of the reasons for our anxiety. We sit home and look at the computer and look at MSNBC or whatever. And in our little minds, oh my God, the world is going to end. So therefore we have to buy 18 bottles of water and that kind of thing. Instead of going out and I just found her, I mean, yes, you could find a reason for each one of her anxieties. Yes, I agree with the candy thing and all of this. And I probably do. I don't let my gas tank get below half. But we're just so self-absorbed nowadays.
Yeah. Lynn.
Oh my goodness, I have so much to say to you, Elaine.
What else is new, Lynn?
Okay, I'm going to take a very different tact here. I think this essential conflict parents have is how many boundaries their kids need and parameters their kids need. And I found as parents were loosening and loosening and loosening the boundaries, the kids were getting worse and worse and worse. So the question is for a parent, and this is a very fine line between parameters or boundaries and repression. I mean, you need to know how much you need to come down on your kids. I mean, I had parents calling me and I would say to them, I think it would be much better if your child talked to me rather than you.
Yes.
It would be a much more productive discussion.
Yes.
When the parents called with I had a parent standing in my office watching me grade her child's paper.
Not surprised.
Because he needed a certain grade to get his driver's license.
Oh my God.
Okay, you have no idea. I mean, the freedom that parents are giving their kids is unbelievable. So, you know, of course, our kids would complain about, oh, well, other parents aren't saying that, and I can do this. And so that's the difficulty of raising children, anytime in any place.
Yeah.
Where do I put the boundary? What's important? Where do I say no? You know, what values am I teaching my kids? And that's, I think,
Yeah.
is the problem eternally, is the value system that you give your kids.
Hear,
So
hear.
I don't know about the stranger danger. I mean, I see parents on the, what, I mean, hovering in a different way. I mean, they are so overprotective
Yeah.
now. That's not good.
No.
But total lack of parameter and boundary is not good either.
Agreed.
So that's what her conflict is. I don't find this whiny at all. I find this, I mean, I'm a bit neurotic myself. For people who know me. This list.
Self-aware.
Self-aware. I think this list, I do all of this. I mean, my parents did all of this.
Really?
Yes, really.
The NASA blanket in the car?
No.
They didn't
not
exist
that.
then.
We did
They
not
didn't
have
have it. They didn't have it.
They didn't have them. Now they have them.
But
How about
items with
showering
your-
during a thunderstorm?
Yeah, I know. I have two, and I'm thinking I'm going to be struck by lightning when I'm in there. But the names on the kids, I mean, when I had my kids, and when I'm giving gifts, I avoid putting the names because I had heard this is not a good idea.
I agree with that. Okay, I have
You
Merle.
know,
Yeah.
That's my feeling.
Right. I have Merle, then Judy. Merle.
Okay, if I had read this book a year ago, I would have said she and her son both suffer from some kind of clinical anxiety and need a little Zoloft, little something,
They do.
something with serotonin. But because I read it this year, I feel like there's a lot of value in her list because my daughter just lived through the fires in Los Angeles and her
Oh,
friends
interesting.
and some of them lost, and they're told you have to evacuate, you have to grab those documents. And my daughter, thank God, her house did not burn down, but her ex-husband's house did burn down. And some of her friends, their houses did burn down. They were happy that they could grab those documents if they actually had them organized. And not everybody did. And it's a lot of trouble. So I have more respect for the book now because we are in a time where we have a lot of things going on with earthquakes and fires. So I thought her list was useful, actually. So I wasn't.
We'll see you at the end of the book. We'll see who used it. Judy.
Like you, Merle, my son, because he lives in California, always carries water and stuff for earthquakes, damage, and then, of course, when the fires came. But so I'm familiar with that concept. My mother was never afraid of anything. I was never afraid of anything. My daughter is not afraid of anything. I think she should be afraid of some things. As I get older, now, if you're a minority, you have to be concerned about some things that you didn't have to be concerned about.
Yeah.
For me, as a person who didn't recognize that much stress when I was younger, this is with what's going on politically and what's going on health-wise with most people I know. I find this book causing me anxiety, great anxiety.
I'm going to propose, and Rabbi Ike brings this up. With all of the technology and time-saving devices, they make people, when people call and they leave you a message and they don't hear back right away, first of all, it creates anger. I can tell you that from sitting in the office. But their expectations go up. Like, why didn't you email me back? Why didn't you this? Why didn't you that? Why didn't you get the grades to me? I need to know for the blah, blah, blah. And so I think technology has, played a part in accelerating anxiety and rushing everything. And it's very I don't answer email on Shabbat, but even sometimes I get emails late at night. I'm like, should I wait till I'm in the office? And then I start, rethinking it and, what should I do? So it's definitely has changed the world for good and for bad. And at camp now, we take pictures of the kids and we post them. Well, if you don't post enough pictures, we once got a thing back, and the mother had called, maybe it was the father, and we said, "Oh, the kid's fine," and he found a picture because he circled the kid. He goes, "Does that look happy?" And I mean, it's 1 moment of 1 day, so it's a double-edged sword, Mary.
So I worked at Deerfield High School, and there was a rule on staff where they could not turn off their emails till 10 o'clock at night. They had to be up till 10 o'clock at night and reading their email. They had to be on and looked at. Teachers, now they might not respond to first thing in the morning, like 7 o'clock, but they wanted everybody to be on the same page. And they told parents that 10 o'clock. It was, it changed teachers' lives, because even if they read something at 10 o'clock, it was like really like over the top. They had to, or they could wait in the morning, but they knew they had to do it by 6:30, and they still had to get their kids ready for school and out the door because the parents sitting there waiting for it. It did change the tenor 100%. But on the other hand, they were getting complaints because teachers weren't answering their emails. Because some teachers would turn it off at 7. I'm home with my kid. My daughter comes home from work every night, and my son-in-law, and they always check their emails before bed. That's just something that they do corporately. And there are times my daughter says, "All right, gotta brush my teeth and sit down for the next 45 minutes and answer this hot thing," because somebody's waiting for an answer. It's very difficult to manage that in today's world.
It's hard enough to be a teacher, to have to go through
And
that.
I think I mentioned the fact that my daughter doesn't like being away from kids traveling, but she really likes it when she goes to California somewhere, where she gets on the plane and there's enough of time difference that she can just zone out. Then she has an excuse. "I'm on a plane. That's why I'm not answering your email."
Well, how sad though that she needs that.
Well, but that's what they do. They think about this, just like they
That's-
think about, "Oh no, they're going on a business trip. I have to be away from my kid." But it's, what our world has become so digital and so connected and we don't turn it off, and we all have the habit of looking, even if we don't have. That's
a problem.
And it's a problem. We're not living our lives fully if you're looking at your phone.
No. Lynn and then Sue. Lynn.
In my humble opinion, I feel that our feelings of helplessness and loss of control in our lives because of everything happening in our society, we tend to look for other places to control.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
And I think that some of that the kids feel that they're the result of that if I can't control my environment or my political scene or my marriage or whatever, the kids get the brunt of that feeling of helplessness and fear that the parents have. And so I don't know what to do about that. I mean, parents need, and I think this is a cry for help, this chapter. There have to be methods of dealing with our fears and not taking it out on our children, but also there's the fine line. We want to protect our kids as well. So that is, it's like a mixed message here coming into your brain about, what I could do. And also one other point, it's called trust. And I think we've lost trust in our kids' ability to do for themselves or make decisions or in their own lives. I remember getting cries from my kids from camp about this happening and that happening. A week later, everything's fine. It's been worked out. So a lot of, and one final anecdote, my daughter was having trouble with a teacher. This was in 3rd grade, and this teacher was a real balabusta and accused Rachel of not turning in her homework. Well, this was an intense kid. So we said to her, "Look, you have to go up to Miss Fox and you have to explain things to her. We're not going to call her. You have to deal with this." And she remembers that. She's 50 years old now. And she remembers that incident. She was scared to death to do it. She did it. She worked it out. And I don't know if parents are giving their kids those opportunities now to work things out for themselves. So I don't know. I don't know. I didn't find it whiny. I found it true to life that parents are having a hard time raising their kids. That's what I found.
Sue, then Beverly,
Okay.
then
Well,
Merle.
in light of what Lynn is talking about, I would say that, yeah, I think what's happening now is parents aren't allowing their kids to grow up. I
True.
can see it among my children and their children who are adults. They're still doing so much for these adult kids. Uh, I know that when my kids got to be adults and they ran their lives. I didn't run their lives for them. I mean, we've always been close and communicated with each other, but I didn't. I mean, I helped them where they needed help, but and the other thing that causes me great anxiety today is AI,
Mhm.
the
Oh,
artificial
yeah.
intelligence. And I have to tell you, emails cause me great anxiety. And I delete more emails than you could ever imagine because I won't even open them up because I think they're all scams.
Yeah, and
I
they
don't,
probably, a lot of them are.
and I
Yeah,
don't answer the phone if I don't know who it is. I figure
yeah,
if it's important, they'll leave a message.
yep, yep.
And all this artificial intelligence business is invading our lives.
Yeah.
And I know I've told my grandchildren who are adults, why do you do this Instagram and TikTok and all this stuff? It's, I don't even do, I have a Facebook account that I never use anymore. Never. Because I don't trust anything.
Yeah,
And that's,
I
and
get that.
talk about trust.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I think it's really, really hard
yeah.
today for different generations for different reasons.
Agreed. Beverly, Merle, then Mary.
I just wanted to go back to the book for a minute.
Yes.
And on page 1, the parents make a decision to be out of town and have this child miss Monday. He missed Monday's class. And I think that that's very revealing because you don't do that to children. Children need structure. Children
Yeah.
need to be there with all the other children. And he didn't need to. And so this anxious parent
Yeah.
makes a decision to let this little one miss Monday. And it sort of sets the whole thing rolling. That's all.
That's a good
That's
point.
it's a good observation.
Yes.
Merle, then Mary. Merle, go ahead.
Okay. Her section about the home alarm system really resonated with me. Because I grew up kind of in apartments, and then there was a house, and then there was a bigger house. But my sister had a really big house in Highland Park, and she had a home alarm system. And it was the kind where just a little bit of motion, a little bit of light would set off this alarm system. So she was out of town once, and this happened. And every time it happened, the police would call me, and I would have to walk through the
Aye.
house. So one of the
Mhm.
times I was like 9 months pregnant, and I had to go over with the police and walk through this huge house, and there was nothing there. Nothing dangerous. No, it was the light, the motion. And I said to the policeman, okay, I think we can, we're done for today. This happened actually several different times. I think when kids grow up now in houses that have these alarm systems, you do wonder, what is it? What are we protecting ourselves from? What is this scary thing that's going to happen?
Mhm.
Well, I grew up where, no, we didn't have an alarm system, so I wasn't worried that anybody was breaking in. My father and I used to walk around together and make sure the doors were locked. I do remember that, but nothing about, oh, someone's going to break in and rob us. And so I think right away that sets the tone for kids to be scared. If you have to have that kind of really sensitive alarm system, just the beginning of all the things to be scared of. So that resonated with me about that.
Mary Van Allen.
Couple of comments. First of all, I think that someone mentioned the fact that if you're a suburban person, you're a kid, you're more watchful. So we're in New York all the time. New York, 10-year-olds are on the bus. I mean, kids go to school
By themselves.
by themselves, and or 12-year. So I said to my daughter, "Oh my goodness, isn't that make you worse?" Because no, I can't wait till my daughter gets to take the bus.
Yes.
I mean, in junior high, she's going to take a bus, and it's a city bus. It's not like it's the school bus. I mean, necessarily. Sometimes it is. So, she did, but she was told when she started at American Express, she was in her late 20s, do never go on Facebook. You have to have a Facebook account because you represent American Express. But you never put your kids on there. Do not communicate with your friends on Facebook. It's not safe to put. They hit a whole thing about how unsafe Facebook was. This was Facebook. This is 18 years ago, 20 years ago. It wasn't safe from the very beginning. And corporations recognized this and said to their employees, don't get sucked into Facebook.
Yeah.
Keep it very generic. You can communicate like somebody else, like that's a nice thing but don't put your own stuff on there ever.
Yeah.
And I think that, we've become complacent about that. And it isn't safe necessarily. So my daughter has no problem at whatever age, letting her kids on a public transportation or running around New York. She does have a problem with Facebook, which I think it's situational.
Absolutely.
And very personal what you're comfortable with.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
So-
Ellen and then Elaine.
Well, I'm just sitting here listening to all this, and when you really go back and realize how much our world has changed in our lifetimes.
Yes.
And we're living in a much less safe world than we grew up in.
Yes.
And social media, as we all know, it has a lot, yes, it's technologically keeps us together. You can find somebody easier, but there are all kinds of issues that are negative with it. And you juxtapose the social media and all the dangers with that with the real dangers of way too many people out there that are the lack of gun control, the people that are out there, all those risks that parents have every right to be scared about. It's you think about, okay, what the heck, where are we going in the right direction?
Yeah.
Many of us think.
Yeah. Elaine.
All right, I am gonna underline what Ellen just said and take back my whiny statement. You know what? I watch Bill Maher on TV.
Love him.
And what is the biggest danger in the world? Plastic. And I thought, okay, that sounds really ridiculous. Then when I started thinking about it and thinking about my own place, how much plastic and how much I bought new containers that were glass because the plastic, when I microwave it, is seeping into my body.
Yes.
So there is real dangers nowadays. And I think we have to live our lives as best we can but I guess be more whiny.
Judy, then Lynn.
Actually, as I get older,
Yeah.
I want to control less.
Yes, I agree.
I'm tired of controlling. I'm
Yes.
tired of planning. I'm tired. I push as much control away from me. So the fact that she's trying to control so much, I feel sorry for her. I hope she learns as she gets older that it is much healthier to start letting go of some of the things you're controlling.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Wait, who did I
But
say?
that doesn't stop you from thinking about it. You may not want to control it, but it's like blasted in our face every moment. And you have to really fight to not want to have all your little ducks in order and your life smooth. That is a way of not thinking is another way of controlling.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't like that either.
Yeah,
Right. Lynn and then Abby. Lynn, go ahead.
Can we get back to the parenting and
Yes.
not our own fears and how we're living our lives? This is what I want to say. This is a 5-year-old kid. The parent is trying to deal with how to parent this 5-year-old. We are not at that stage right now. Our kids might be at that stage. My kids, grandchildren are at that stage, but most of you have grown up grandchildren. And I'm watching the raising of these little kids. And how do you prevent what's going on today, but to make better kids? I mean, to make kids that are going to make good decisions. How do you do that? Do you do it by establishing rules and giving boundaries? Do you let loose, Judy, like that? I mean, you can say that I'm going to let loose. You want to let loose your kids? Come teach. Let loose.
I could never
That-
teach.
Okay.
I
So
could
we're-
never, ever teach.
We were teaching, I was teaching
Although-
kids with no boundaries. So what we have to, she is dealing with a very crucial issue here, is how do you raise kids and not make them neurotic? My daughter said to me then, says to me now, I don't want you to solve my problems. I just want you to listen. Because I start opening my mouth to give suggestions. She said, I don't want your suggestions, just listen. So that's very hard for parents. Very hard for parents. We need to
I think,
look
this generation
this
especially.
I think all generations. I mean, my parents were never involved in any
Yeah.
decisions in my life.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we're at the 5-year-old level here. What do you do with little kids? And you see your own kids dealing with little kids. And my friend, her kids had an intervention with her because she was too much involved.
Okay.
And
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
avoid that scene.
Yeah.
Big time.
Big time.
So-
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Evie.
We make crackers.
Yeah, I'm really confused because I don't even know what the right values are anymore. Our values, I think well, maybe my
that's true.
values have changed through the years. And what right do I have to inflict I realize I do have values that I try to hope that they will have and so on and so forth. And I do follow a lot of, psychological gurus, and the one that I just recently read, which I don't know if I necessarily care for her, is this Mel Robbins, but her thing about let them, that whole idea of let them and so forth. And I realized how much in my mind I certainly wasn't controlling anybody because they weren't listening anyway. But in terms of my mind mentally or emotionally having that control, that was really just bothering me and not anybody else because I wasn't verbalizing it. So when I'm saying to myself, okay, let them, if that's they want to do, if that's how they want to act toward me or toward somebody else, that's not my business. I have found that helpful the last couple of months until I switched to somebody else, of course. But I just don't know. Sitting back as a 70-something person, what are my values and are they archaic? And am I still struggling to find mine? I just don't know how to actually refine or think out, what values I would even want to. No, I shouldn't say that. I think they do have good values and I'm proud of them for that.
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Here. Merle.
I think that when we try to be very open and free with our children, sometimes things happen where we can't. Like my older two daughters used to walk to school when the weather was nice because it was fine and we were walking distance. So I had a third child 10 years after the second child. So we get notes from the elementary school. If you could possibly drive your child to school, your little kindergartner, your first grade, drive to school and pick them up because we've been having people drive up to the school offering the children candy to come into their cars. So then, I mean, all the moms, everyone I knew,
Terrible.
we set up a carpool to drive our little kids because of what happened at the school.
Yeah.
I never dreamed we would have to do that because we lived so close to the school. But no, we had to. And that's why I'm saying that we don't want to be worried all the time, but then things happen that make us.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I'm just saying it's not our fault if we're worried because it's coming from somewhere else. Or
True.
like when
Right.
she went out on the date with the guy and they were worried about anthrax and he offered her Cipro.
Oh, right.
It's happening around us. So
Yeah,
anyway, that's
yeah.
why we're all kind of anxious now. It's
Yeah.
not our fault.
Judy, Judy.
My interpretation of this chapter was it was about fear, parents' fear and child fear.
Mhm.
The solution to fear is education.
Mhm.
And if we can find a way, I mean, that's the solution. And maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but Cory Booker tried to alleviate some fear
Yes, he did.
by
You're here.
speaking truth to power.
Absolutely.
We
For
need,
25 hours.
yes,
And talked about moral values. There was no question about what he thought
Yeah.
morality was. And I think
Right.
if you really look in yourself, you know what your moral
Yeah.
compass is.
Yeah.
And that is what you want to impart to your kids, but not all the other stuff around it.
Yeah.
You have to keep it focused.
yeah, but fear, it's facing fears. And I think the only solution to facing fears is education.
I think that's absolutely. Lital does a great job as a parent, and she's a school counselor. She was a teacher. There's lots of boundaries, and occasionally, Arthur and I, when you start, you can't rationalize with a 2-year-old. Like that's not, yeah, and that's so we when we're there and with them, like, what's your plan? And, gentle touches and, and he's biting. Max is biting Esme, gentle touches. But we vlog. We have a video log of our experiences as grandparents, and we don't show the kids. That was a rule. That's one rule we follow. We let them have ice cream and sugar and all of that. But, my son-in-law works in politics, and Lital wanted the kids to have her last name because she was afraid of people tracking them down. They have his last name later. But it's today's world. Sandy, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
I have 5 great-grandchildren under the age of 5. And I love my grandchildren, have, I think, a good relationship with all of them. But they give these kids everything. They have way too much. I think it's very sad. I look around their houses, they have every kind of electronic toy. They're constantly moving. They never sit still. And it's really sad. Once in a while, I can get one of the kids to sit down and I take a book or something and try to point out things to them. But they do respond a little bit. But overall, their life is constant movement. They're signed up for hockey lessons, ice hockey lessons, golf lessons, baseball lessons at 5 years old.
Yeah.
It's very sad. You want to be the good grandmother. I'm Gigi, the great grandmother. If I tell them, then I'm going to lose my relationship with my grandchildren. They're going to say, what is she interfering? What does she know? The kids just love all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But their houses, they have big houses full of stuff. And when I go there, it's in my heart, it's very sickening. I think there's something wrong with it. And as far as Facebook, one granddaughter puts her children on Facebook almost every couple days. And she's a teacher. I tried to explain to her why that's not healthy.
Yeah.
But I can't get through. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. So I'm looking at the title of this book. And after our discussion this morning, Spilt Milk, there's different ways to look at the title. How do we deal with spilt milk? Everybody's had spilt milk. So I think as we go on and read, it'll be very interesting. I have to end on time today because I have another Zoom, but I will be in Korea on a family wedding. So we won't meet again for a month till May 7th after Pesach. Have a great Pesach. There's a lot going on here at Macomb. Watch your Macomb at home. And for the 10 days I'm away, I think I don't usually put my away message on, but I'm going to put my away message on because the time difference, I'm just not going to be able to.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to, and I'm not taking my computer. I am taking my phone. You have to take your phone.
Why are you going, who's getting married?
A family friend.
I've been told to take a burner phone and
Absolutely.
not your regular
Don't ever
phone.
take, not.
Oh, my.
Do
Yes.
not take your
No, 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 no.
regular phone.
No, not to someplace like that. Yeah, my
Because you might
daughter
lose it?
went to,
Bring a
and
burner,
traveled
lose it.
internationally
Yeah.
for weddings.
Where do you get a
whatever.
burner phone?
You go buy one.
You go buy
at
one
AT&T.
in Highwood.
Highwood.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's
Yikes.
always been told by her corporation
Okay.
that if she was going to someplace like Korea, China,
Yeah.
you know, Vietnam,
Yes, we're
wherever
going
it
to
is,
South
Indonesia,
Korea.
you
We're
go,
going to
it
South-
doesn't matter.
We're
You-
not going to North Korea.
No, but still,
Sorry.
South
No,
Korea
it's
has
still
its
South Korea.
issues, so.
Okay.
Just, you just have to be
And when you
careful with
come
it.
back into the States
Yeah.
from South Korea, they're going to look at your phone and ask you for your password and take your phone.
Yep.
And that you don't know if they're going to put something on your phone or look at what you've written.
Wait. When you go to South Korea, they take your phone?
No, when you come back.
Back.
Oh,
When you leave South Korea,
the Americans do that?
Yes, that's what ICE is doing now.
yeah, they're taking people's phones. That's how they're dumping people. Well, you went to
A foreign country and we're going to bring them in. Ay vey.
you made a comment.
I've got even more worries. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll let you know what happens.
Safe travel.
Yeah.
Read chapter 2.
Good.
Read
And-
chapter 2.
Right.
Yes.
Travel
Travels,
safely,
Vanessa.
Vanessa.
Right.
That's
You'll get an email and I'll either set it up before I go or you can get it.
I
All
want her.
right. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a good trip.